But I figured we'd talk about a summer topic here, kicking things off this morning. And to do that, we bring into the studio Mr. Richard Riggio. Is that correct, sir?
It's pronounced Riggio.
Riggio, sorry. I apologize for that. Richard comes to us as a concerned citizen. And this is a topic which I cover quite a bit in the news cycle, have over the past five years or so, and something that comes up quite often, and something that you may not know about what goes on in your boat. So to start things off, first off, tell us a little about yourself, sir.
I pretty much had seen a class they were going to have at Lake Regional to simply go over boating injuries and accidents, and then I saw a video that showed a gentleman filling his boat up and didn't know that the fuel system wasn't properly maintained. With that, basically the fuel fill hose had fallen off and he didn't know it and filled up his boat in the bilge full of fuel, and then when he hit the bilge pump, it pretty much burned him. And I think there's a way to avoid that by just making folks aware that they can have that fuel system checked every year. If it's not mandated, which people probably don't want any more regulations put on them as a boater, but to make it fun and safe, I really feel it was important to come here and talk about this.
Sure. Now, this is something that you've noticed. This is something that's not state mandated. What is mandated for your boat?
Pretty much just, again, to have it registered unless you have it documented with the Coast Guard. And then other than that, they want you to have a life jacket for each person on board, a fire extinguisher, and a horn. And that's really it. So, like I said, I don't want to make anything unhappy or make anybody, fearful of boating. Just have a good time. But they shouldn't have to worry about the boat, just how they drive and behave. But there's just really nothing else that's going on. But I think that if people would have this happen as far as an inspection on their boat by their technician every spring during dewinterization, and then have that fuel fill replaced or new clamps put on, obviously if there's a smell, people will tell their technician that they have a problem. But as they're having fun and they're fueling their boat, I would like to think that was already taken care of.
Now, the issue that I cover is when people go pull up, they fill up at a dock, and then they close the compartment, whether it be a personal watercraft or whether it be a boat, and then there's the ignition, and then there's a boat explosion. This is what we're looking at as far as the news is concerned. Why are there not inspections for boats like there are for cars, I guess is where my first question would be.
That's my question as well. I haven't really gone into questioning the Missouri State Highway Patrol Water Division, but I did call them, and they said there are no inspections, necessary for boaters on these boats. And that was where I kind of red flagged this. And once again, I have spoken to several friends before I came here to see you, and they said, really, you don't want to scare folks into thinking they need more regulations on their boat. But it's in your owner's manuals to have these inspected, but maybe folks just aren't doing that.
Sure.
So like I said, for the happy point of boating, I like to get out there too and not have to worry about the boat, but I pay attention. But when I saw that video, which we know this happens more than once, it was inevitable. And then I asked the firefighter that taught that class at Lake Regional too, at the end of the class, is there any state mandate for inspections? And he said no. And I'm like, well, there again, maybe if we just talk about it, and if any folks have any suggestions of what we can do to make it more controlled, then I just urge them to have this done every spring when their boat's dewinterized, and make sure all the hoses are in good shape, and have your technician go ahead and replace anything, and new clamps, the whole thing, and then they, and still keep an eye, open that engine hatch during fueling. I think that we're under the impression sometimes that our boats are so similar to the cars, but they're not, and yet we can still have a great time. I really want people to have fun. That's my bottom line here.
Understandable. And if you have suggestions for us, 302-7000, our phone number, 1-877-330-1150. Also live, L-I-V-E, at krmsradio.com. So what kind of things do people need to look for? Because most people, you couldn't say, hey, your car runs, and they take it to the shop when their car's not running. That's about the extent of what they do. You get your oil changed. Maybe some people can do that on their own, and a lot of people can, but not a lot of people know a lot about the boat when they buy the boat. No real education. from dealers, and some people just get handed the boat. They're like, here's your boat. What kind of things should people look for when you're talking about these hoses and those kind of things?
That's a great question. I think that once again, the fuel fill hose is pretty much underneath the deck. Most people don't even see that. So they can obviously open their engine hatch and of course, when the engine's turned off, and do a good smell check to make sure there's no fuel smell. And obviously they could look, but to me it's very important to have their technician do that for them and show the concern that they have. It's in the owner's manual to have that system checked. So to look for, it's really kind of hard to. That's why I recommend this to be done, again, either on a mandated type thing or to make it their personal regiment. But I would like to see and hear less of accidents like this, because I think it's avoidable. The fuel fill hose is something that pretty much every marina has in stock. If not, they can get it. There again, to answer your question, to look for the obvious signs, but to also do a good fuel vapor smell check under the engine hatch, of course, when the engine's turned off, and they'll know it, and if they have any doubts, go ahead and get it fixed. It's just I think that it shouldn't be anything that people are scared of, but they should be aware of. And all they can really do, I think, because they don't, like you said, there's no real dealer education because of, the boat is sold and they do have a manual. They are supposed to read the manual. Maybe they don't, and once again, they can rely on a qualified technician to look at that and let that person know of their concerns, just for their safety of their family and friends, and that should not be a worry. Once again, I know that when a person gets out there on the lake, they forget about their problems and they have a good time, and just be concerned with their sober driving and have a really good time. I love it. At 21 years here, I still just love to go out and just gets it out of your head for a while, whatever your worries are.
Sure.
And so,
good thing to do on the water.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's a nice amenity we have down here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once again, going to a fuel dock, it is fun. A lot of times you have, bikini-clad women that are running around and helping you. And there's also too, I think, education that they could get, really strict education about fueling. At one point, they were going to have color-coded gas caps for boats, but a lot of people didn't like the look of that. It was going to be red for gas, blue for water, and brown for waste, and I think that would be good to keep the confusion down from fueling the wrong fill.
Certainly.